G'day, I'm Steve Robertson, SouthCoast Television. As you probably know, the ballots have now been mailed out for this year's Victor Harbor Council elections and the mayoral election. And there are quite a number of candidates standing for council. And one of the candidates who is standing for re-election is Andrew Robertson. He's been putting out various leaflets around the community. Andrew, welcome to the studio.
Thank you,
I'm
Steve.
wondering if you can tell us in the term that you've already served, what one accomplishment you're the proudest of amongst what you did on council?
I think two things, Steve. One was the persuading, along with some colleagues, the need for the Victor Council to invest in a proper Chamber of Commerce, and so to be giving up part of the differential rate they get from business and to put that into establishing an executive officer position in Business Victor Harbor would enable the organisation to stand on its own 2 feet. The other one was the getting passed through the council, the unsolicited proposals policy, which is a bit of a mouthful, but it essentially means that council recognises that neither its elected members nor the staff themselves have all the answers for development in the area, and that our procurement systems are not very good for large and especially innovative projects, and that we have a proposal process that we borrowed word for word from Mount Barker Council to be able to give private sector investors who have an idea a quick and relatively easy way to put forward their proposals for development and to get them fast-tracked.
Now, at the recent candidates forum, two issues came up as being particularly important, not only to the candidates, but to the people that were there. One of them was the very high level of rates that we ratepayers pay in Victor Harbor, and the other one was proposed that we have a very high debt. Now, what are your thoughts about debt and about rates, and are the two inexplicably tied together?
Oh, absolutely, Steve, they are. The debt has to be repaid, and that will be repaid through rates, no question. The current council's level of debt, I believe, is sustainable. It is the kind of debt that we should be carrying, the kind of level of debt, about $11 million. It's the kind of debt we should be carrying. As a council, if you don't have debt, you're not doing your job. You're not building for the future. It's the amount of debt and what you've got that debt invested in that matters. But also, you don't want to have anywhere near where our present level of debt is tied to the level of rates. And at present, the level of debt is around about half of our annual rate delivery or receipts. And that is considered pretty much kind of best practice for a council like ours. So our current level of debt is one that's I believe is okay, but the problem is that we should, when we get to that level of debt, we should start paying it down. Or if we want to stay at that level of debt, then we need to cut back on what we do in the future, but also start paying it down.
I guess the question we have is about the rates and how we get rates under control, whether rates are going to continue to go up, and also the question comes up, as was raised at the council forum, when candidates were asked to promise that no rate increases over CPI would ever be voted for. I believe you raised your hand.
I did.
Tell us why.
Well, Victor Harbor Council at present gets around about 85% of its income from rates.
Yep.
And that's a very high level of, it's a dangerously high level of income, because it means that you're entirely dependent on your ratepayers. They may not like to be paying that level of rates. Secondly, in council's net receipts that it gets as revenue, having a rates income that's that high is also dangerous, because it means you're not engaging enough with the private sector. It means you're not thinking hard enough about alternative ways of raising revenue. So at present, the additional revenue that we get, for instance, a very small amount comes from car parks, from animal permits, from people plans for houses, etc.
Your statement implies that other councils around the state do raise a larger amount from non-rate income. Have you had a look at some of those councils, what they do, and what are they doing that's applicable to Victor Harbor?
Oh, so yes, some of those would be, for instance, the City of Adelaide, which raises a lot of money from parking fees and so on. We don't, our business districts in Victor Harbor are very small, and we have a tenacious resistance to any kind of parking fees. So that one down here is not that good. But on the other side is that when we are raising rates to, say, borrow money to build something, we should be, the model that has been used by Victor Council in the past has been that, okay, we want a sports complex, so we go out and we put some money together that we're going to borrow ourselves. We go to the government for handouts on grants and so on, and then we go ahead and build it. If we did more public-private partnerships, the amount of money that we would have to stump up, and therefore our ratepayers would either have to stump up or repay, would be less. We wouldn't need that much rate income. So to me, it's long overdue that Victor Council starts to think about doing a better job in terms of looking at a more diverse revenue base.
This is a hypothetical question. It's next year. You've been re-elected to Victor Harbor Council. It's the first meeting of the year. What for you is number one priority at that first meeting to get done?
Number one is to review, which we do anyway, but review with particular vigour, is the current year's budget and business plan to see what can be taken out of that. We still have ongoing problems in the council in terms of the numbers of staff, the staff off sick, staff resigning, etc. And so to formally cut back the amount of borrowing and work that needs to be done. So review of this year's budget would be number one. Around about March, we'll start the process of building the 23-24 budget. And that's something that we need to pay a lot of attention to. No deficits at all, and again to have a entirely sustainable borrowing level, and particularly a capital works program, because we've still got a shortage of staff, and the issues raised about capacity and capability are still very, very true. The third thing is we need to find out the status of our new corporate system software. We haven't heard back from the council for 3 months.
Councillor Andrew Robertson, thanks very much.
Okay.
As we said, the ballots have now begun to be distributed, and the voting will continue over the next few weeks. Steve Robertson, South Coast Television.
Spoken and authorised by Andrew Robertson of 164 Back Valley Road, Back Valley, and produced by South Coast Television.